The blast doors of the Imperial supply depot exploded outward in a shadow of sparks, and through the smoke came a blur of motion. A teenage boy with wild blue-black hair, clutching a satchel to his chest like his life depended on it, which, given the squad of stormtroopers thundering after him, it probably did. Ezra Bridger vaulted over a stack of cargo containers with practiced ease, his worn boots barely making a sound as he landed. The streets of Capital City had been his playgrounds for years, every alley and rooftop memorized like the back of his hand. The bucketheads behind him, they didn't stand a chance. The tinny voice of a trooper echoed off the Duracrete walls. The manifest wasn't even what he'd come for, just grabbed it on impulse when he'd seen the Imperial seal. The real prize bounced in his satchel, a strange crystal shard that seemed to hum with energy, practically calling out to him from his containment unit. He didn't know what it was, but anything the Empire locked up that tight had to be worth something on the black market. He rounded a corner into what should have been an empty maintenance corridor, only to slam chest first into someone standing perfectly still in the shadows. Ezra bounced backward, nearly losing his footing, and found himself staring up at a man he'd never seen before. Red hair, weathered face marked with scars, and eyes that held the weight of too many battles. But it was the cylinder hanging from his belt that made Ezra's blood run cold. He'd heard enough stories to recognize a lightsaber when he saw one. How did you get that crystal? Look, I don't want any trouble, just trying to make a living here, okay? The first stormtrooper rounded the corner, blaster raised. Cal moved like lightning. One moment he was standing still, the next his lightsaber ignited in a brilliant blue arc, deflecting 3 blaster bolts before the trooper could finish his sentence. The blade hummed through the air, and suddenly all 6 stormtroopers were on the ground, unconscious but breathing. Ezra's jaw dropped. He'd seen holovids, heard the stories, but witnessing a Jedi in action, assuming that's what this guy was, felt like watching a myth come to life. As if on cue, the temperature in the alley seemed to drop 10 degrees. Both Cal and Ezra turned toward the main street, where a figure in black armor strode into view, a spinning double-bladed lightsaber igniting with a distinctive crimson glow. The Grand Inquisitor had arrived. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you're enjoying this content so far, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch these videos without subscribing. Imagine what we could accomplish if everyone subscribed. We thank you all for your continued support. The Grand Inquisitor moved with deliberate menace, his pale face split by a predatory smile. Yellow eyes fixed on Ezra with unsettling interest. The boy's mind reeled. Potential. What was this creature talking about? He was just a street thief, nothing special. But even as he thought it, he remembered all those times he'd known when stormtroopers were coming before they appeared, or when he'd made impossible jumps that should have killed him. The Inquisitor struck without warning, his spinning blade creating a deadly red disc as he lunged forward. Cal met him halfway, their sabers clashing in a shower of sparks that lit up the alley like fireworks. The force of their collision sent a shockwave that knocked over nearby containers and set off every alarm in a 3-block radius. Ezra scrambled backward, his heart pounding. He should run. Every instinct screamed at him to flee, but something kept him rooted in place. Watching as Cal fought with a desperate grace, each movement precise yet somehow wild, like he was fighting not just the Inquisitor, but ghosts from his past. You fight like a cornered animal, Kestis. Where's the famous Jedi Serenity? Same place as the Jedi Order. Gone. The duel intensified, both combatants pushing themselves harder. Cal's fighting style was unorthodox, a mix of classical forms and street fighting pragmatism that kept the Inquisitor off balance. But Ezra could see Cal was tiring, sweat beading on his forehead, his breathing becoming labored. Without thinking, Ezra grabbed a metal pipe from the ground and hurled it at the Inquisitor's head. It was a desperate, stupid move, but as the pipe flew through the air, something strange happened. Time seemed to slow, and Ezra felt something, like invisible hands guiding the projectile's path. The pipe struck the Grand Inquisitor square on the temple, sending him staggering. Cal didn't waste the opportunity, force pushing his opponent into a wall with enough force to crack the Duracrete. They ran for what felt like hours, Cal leading them through service tunnels and maintenance shafts Ezra didn't even know existed. Finally, they emerged in an abandoned warehouse in the industrial district, both gasping for breath. The abandoned warehouse became their temporary refuge, though Cal insisted on setting up motion sensors and checking every entrance twice. Ezra watched him work, noting the efficiency of someone who'd been running for a very long time. Cal paused in his preparations, his hand unconsciously moving to the lightsaber at his hip. The weight of his past hung heavy in the air. When Ezra handed over the crystal, Cal touched it and his expression changed, eyes closing as if in pain. This wasn't corrupted bait, it was pure kyber, meant for something bigger. Over the next few days, Cal began teaching Ezra the basics, not lightsaber combat, to Ezra's disappointment, but meditation and awareness exercises. His teaching was reluctant, haunted by memories of his master Seer, who had saved his life countless times before dying to protect others from the Empire. My master, Seer. She told me the same thing once. She saved my life more times than I can count, died protecting others from the Empire. I'm not sure I'm the right person to be teaching anyone. Well, you're the only Jedi I've got. Unless you know any others hanging around Lothal. Cal actually smiled at that, though it didn't quite reach his eyes. He stopped mid-sentence, his entire body going rigid. Ezra felt it too, a cold presence approaching, like a shadow falling over the sun. They barely made it to the rear exit before the front door exploded inward. Through the dust and debris stepped not just the Grand Inquisitor, but two other figures in similar dark armor. Additional Inquisitors, their lightsabers casting the warehouse in hellish red light. The Grand Inquisitor's earlier shoulder wound had been treated, a back-to-patch visible beneath his armor, but his movement showed he was still favoring that side. Cal pushed Ezra behind a stack of crates, preparing to face 3 Inquisitors alone. The odds were impossible, but his expression held grim determination. The 3 Inquisitors circled Cal like hungry wolves, their red blades creating a cage of deadly light. Cal shifted his stance, calling on every bit of training Master Tapal had given him, every hard lesson learned surviving after Order 66. He engaged all 3 simultaneously, his blue blade a whirlwind of defensive parries and desperate counters. The warehouse erupted in chaos, crates exploding, support beams collapsing, sparks flying as lightsabers carved through metal like soft butter. Ezra watched from his hiding spot, mesmerized and terrified in equal measure. Cal fought like a man possessed, using the Force to hurl debris, pulling Inquisitors off balance, even briefly freezing one in place, an ability Ezra had never heard of in any story. But 3 against 1 was still 3 against 1. A strike from the second Inquisitor caught Cal across the ribs, burning through his jacket. He stumbled, and the Grand Inquisitor's blade nearly took off his head. Cal rolled away, but he was being pushed back, running out of room to maneuver. That's when Ezra felt it again, the strange sensation from before. Without conscious thought, he reached out with his mind. The warehouse's old lighting rig, tons of rusted metal and broken figures, suddenly groaned overhead. Ezra pulled, and the entire structure came crashing down directly onto the Twi'lek Inquisitor, crushing her beneath the weight. Impossible! Untrained, yet such raw power. No! Cal interrupted the strike meant for Ezra, using the distraction to go on the offensive. His lightsaber found the second Inquisitor's shoulder, sending him reeling. The duel spilled out onto the street, drawing crowds of terrified onlookers. Then came the distinctive engine whine of a VCX-100 light freighter. The Ghost swooped overhead, its laser cannons lighting up the street, forcing the Grand Inquisitor to deflect the barrage. A ramp lowered, and a woman's face called out for them to get aboard. Cal didn't hesitate, grabbing Ezra and force jumping toward the ramp in a leap that defied physics. They crashed onto the ship's deck as blaster fire erupted behind them. As the Ghost rocketed toward space, Ezra found himself face to face with another man holding a lightsaber, this one also blue. Between them, Ezra felt the weight of destiny shifting, like standing at a crossroads where every path led somewhere unprecedented and dangerous. The Ghost's common era had never felt smaller. Cal sat on one side, pressing a back-to-patch to the ribs wounded in the earlier fight, while Kanan stood opposite, arms crossed. Between them, the crew gathered, Hera, Zeb, Sabine, and even Chopper, who beeped suspiciously at the newcomers. The tension between the 2 Jedi was palpable, 2 survivors of Order 66, but their survival had clearly taken different paths. Cal explained the Kyber crystal situation tersely, how it had drawn the Inquisitors. Kanan questioned whether Cal had been training the boy, judgment underlying his neutral tone. You mean you've been training him? Because from where I'm standing, you've painted a target on his back. The target was already there. You think the Empire wouldn't have found him eventually? At least now he has a chance to defend himself. The philosophical divide was clear. Cal preached survival above all else, shaped by watching Vader tear through Jedi Masters. Kanan still held on to hope, believing in building something greater. Ezra, caught between them, suggested both might be right, that survival and hope weren't mutually exclusive. Hera tried to broker peace, suggesting they work together. Cal remained resistant, years of solitary survival making trust nearly impossible. But when the ship's alarms started blaring and an Imperial Star Destroyer dropped out of hyperspace, the decision was made for them. Cal and Kanan exchanged glances, their conflict suddenly secondary. For the first time, Ezra saw what 2 Jedi standing together looked like, not as master and apprentice, but as equals united against a common enemy. The Ghost shuddered as tractor beams locked onto its hull. Through the viewport, the Imperial Star Destroyer loomed like a metal mountain. This wasn't random. Cal recognized it immediately as a trap, the Grand Inquisitor playing a longer game. As the Ghost was pulled into the hangar, rows of stormtroopers came into view, weapons trained on the ship's landing ramp. At their head stood the Grand Inquisitor, his shoulder still showing signs of Cal's earlier strike, flanked by his recovering companion, their lightsabers already ignited. Cal and Kanan descended the ramp together, lightsabers unlit but ready. The Grand Inquisitor smiled with satisfaction, gloating about capturing 2 Jedi and a Force-sensitive child. Then he played his cruelest card, revealing that Ezra's parents, those vocal anti-Imperial broadcasters, had died in prison. "Accidents happen," he said casually, watching for the boy's reaction. "Young Bridger, did you ever wonder why your parents never came home that night? Your anger is delicious. Such raw, untapped power." Ezra's rage exploded. The hangar temperature dropped. The kyber crystal in his pocket pulsed. Crates lifted off the ground, the ghost itself rocking. Raw, unfocused power threatened to tear everything apart. Exactly what the Inquisitor wanted. Then Hera's voice cut through over the calm and steady, reminding Ezra that his parents fought for freedom and hope, not darkness. The words penetrated his fog of rage. He thought of their laughter, their broadcasts, their love. The Grand Inquisitor's frustration at losing his prize created an opening. Cal revealed his double-bladed saber configuration, something unexpected. His blade found the Inquisitor's shoulder again, worsening the earlier wound. In the chaos of explosives and covering fire, the crew escaped. The ghost burst from the hangar as Hera wove through turbo laser fire. In the sudden quiet of hyperspace, Ezra collapsed, emotionally drained. Cal knelt beside him, acknowledging he'd done well in resisting the dark side. When Ezra admitted he'd wanted to destroy them all, both Jedi recognized this as the burden of power, the constant temptation that must be resisted. It was a small moment, but significant. Two different philosophies finding common ground. The ghost drifted through the outer rim, far from Imperial patrols. In the cargo hold's makeshift training area, Ezra sat cross-legged, the kyber crystal floating between his palms, glowing with inner light. Cal paced around him, explaining how every kyber has a unique signature, how they choose their wielders. Kanan watched from the doorway, initially suspicious but increasingly interested in Cal's unconventional methods. The two Jedi found unexpected harmony in teaching, Cal's pragmatism balanced by Kanan's tradition. When Cal pulled out components for lightsaber construction, Ezra's eyes went wide. After facing the Inquisitor, after resisting dark manipulation, he'd earned this. The construction required meditation, using the Force to align delicate components. As Ezra worked, Cal remembered his own training with Master Tepal, the joy of passing on knowledge breaking through his trauma. "There, my master told me a lightsaber was just a tool, that the Force was our true weapon. Lost my first saber on Braca. Built this one from scratch with salvaged parts. Maybe it's both. A tool, but also a symbol." Ezra's completed lightsaber ignited with a thin needle-like blue blade, precise and focused, perfect for getting through tight spaces. Cal approved of its practicality. The training that followed was unique. Two Purge survivors with vastly different philosophies teaching a street thief. Cal emphasized constant movement and quick endings. Kanan stressed balance and deflection. Somehow it worked. That evening, Cal found himself in the cockpit with Hera. He admitted he was making up his teachings as he went. When he mentioned Saw Gerrera's contact about more aggressive rebellion tactics, Hera challenged whether that was the right path. Watching Ezra pull back from the edge had made Cal reconsider. Maybe her way had merit. Maybe there was another way forward. Before Hera could respond, alarms blared. An Imperial probe had found them, but instead of running, Kanan suggested setting their own trap. Cal looked at his crew that had become almost like family, then at Ezra with his new lightsaber. He agreed to hear the plan. The ghost sat powered down in an asteroid's shadow, playing dead. 3 Star Destroyers arrived, overkill for normal prey, but this wasn't normal, this was Vader. Through the Force, both Jedi felt it, a presence like a black hole, consuming all light. A single shuttle deployed from the lead destroyer. Even from a distance, Vader's presence was overwhelming. Ezra felt darkness that made the Grand Inquisitor seem like a candle flame next to a supernova. Cal and Kanan made their way to face him, leaving Ezra with the crew despite his protests. They stepped onto the asteroid's surface, 2 Jedi against the Dark Lord of the Sith. Vader approached slowly, his mechanical breathing echoing in the wind. "Cal Kestis, you have evaded justice for too long." "Funny, I was thinking the same about you, Skywalker." The effect was immediate. Vader's lightsaber blazed to life, crossing the distance instantly. The impact sent Cal skidding backward. It was like fighting a hurricane. Overwhelming strength, flawless technique. They were being systematically destroyed. Then Cal did something unexpected. As Vader raised his blade for a killing strike, Cal didn't defend. Instead, he reached through the Force to the Star Destroyer's reactor cores. With every ounce of his strength, he began pulling one down. Vader had to choose, finish the Jedi or save his fleet. With a roar of rage, he turned his power skyward, holding the massive vessel. The ghost swooped down, snatching the Jedi from the surface. They jumped to hyperspace as the Star Destroyer exploded. In the medical bay, Cal collapsed from the strain. Both Jedi were broken, bloodied, but alive. When Ezra asked what came next, Hera spoke of disappearing, regrouping, hitting back when ready. Cal added one word that changed everything: together. Weeks passed. The ghost found refuge with rebel cells. In a quiet moment, Ezra found Cal meditating. When Ezra suggested survival wasn't enough, that they needed something to survive for, Cal smiled genuinely for perhaps the first time. The kid might be right. Maybe there was hope for the next generation after all. As the Ghost sailed through hyperspace toward an uncertain future, 3 Force users prepared for the larger war to come. The Empire had awakened something it couldn't control. Jedi who refused to hide, rebels who refused to surrender, and a boy from Lothal whose destiny would reshape the galaxy itself. The Inquisitor still hunted, Vader still pursued, the Emperor still schemed. But in this timeline, Cal Kestis had found Ezra Bridger first, and that single change rippled outward like waves on a cosmic pond, altering the fate of everyone it touched. The Force, as always, would have its way, but perhaps this time the light would shine a little brighter in the darkness. If you enjoyed this journey into the shadows of what might have been, remember to hit that subscribe button and join us for more explorations of the infinite possibilities within that galaxy far, far away. May the Force be with you, always.